Welcome to the Mini Storage Messenger Self-Storage Webinar Series. I'm Poppy Behrens, publisher of Minico Publishing, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is Storage Marketing Solutions. Our presenter is Derek Naylor, president of SMS. Over the past 7 years, Derek has incrementally increased sales revenue for his clients by more than $250 million through innovation and advanced marketing strategies. In 2003, he founded SMS and directed his talents and unique growth strategies exclusively to the self-storage industry. SMS now helps hundreds of operators from coast to coast to increase their occupancy and profits through the company's unique outsourced marketing director program and other tools. Derek is a regular contributor to industry magazines and a dynamic speaker at trade events. This year marks the 30th anniversary of Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles on the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns, contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals, address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction, and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources, such as those you see on your screen. For more information, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. We invite you to submit questions throughout today's webinar. To do so, simply type your question into the question area and click Send. Depending on the question, we will answer it privately or to the entire group. We will try and answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A period at the end of the webinar. Those that cannot be answered due to time constraints will be answered by way of email after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com. Today's presentation should run about 45 minutes, with the remainder of the hour open to questions and answers. And now it's my distinct pleasure to turn the presentation over to Derek. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning. Thank you, Poppy, for that nice introduction, as always. And thank you, everybody out there in cyberspace, for joining us for this webinar. It's always fun to do these and see the list of people who register from all over the world. It certainly is amazing where technology has brought us. And as you probably know from the promotional materials and registration page, the title of the webinar today is 3 Pillars of Profitable Facility Marketing to Keep You Strong Through the Winter in 2010. And before we dive into it, I just want to say a couple of things. First is I'm going to be moving through this pretty fast. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a way to get some free gifts that include obviously the recording of this and some of the charts and graphs that you'll see throughout the presentation. So at the end of that, you'll get that information. So if you can't write something down or you can't quite see it well, don't worry about it. We'll send it to you after the webinar is over. And I've designed this so there's going to be plenty of time for questions at the end. As Poppy said, there'll be about 15 minutes, maybe even 20. So as you have questions about anything whatsoever, the purpose of this is to help you out. So if you have a question about something, don't be shy. Just type it into the box, and we will answer it when appropriate. So I want to talk a little bit about the title of this. This is a little bit misleading as I was reading it. The 3 pillars that we talk about will certainly keep you profitable keep you strong through the winter and through 2010. But it's really more than that. The 3 pillars that we're going to talk about are extremely powerful, and after we review them, I think, or at least I hope that you'll see that these 3 pillars should be the foundation of all of your marketing for the rest of this year, 2010 and beyond. These are not current fads or trends that we're talking about. These are age-old principles that have been working for years and years and years and will continue to work for years and years moving forward. And in today's day and age, where there's lots of shiny new objects and technology flying at us every day, sign up for this and your problems will be fixed. Sign up for that and your problems will be fixed. It's really easy to get distracted from the core principles and fundamentals that really make the cash register ring. Okay, so diving into this, I'm going to go on a little bit of a on an offshoot that may not make a whole lot of sense, but I promise if you hang with me and pay attention, it will not only make this webinar make a lot more sense, but it could profoundly change your life, and I mean that sincerely. And I want to start out by talking about an event that happened on May 6, 1954. For those of you who are track and field enthusiasts, you probably know about this already. But on May 6, 1954, a guy by the name of Roger Bannister was the first man to run a mile in less than 4 seconds. Now, in today's day and age, that's not really anything significant. In fact, it's considered to be slow. The significant thing is that prior to May 6, 1954, for hundreds of years before then, and for as long as track and field had been a competition event, a lot of people said that running a mile in less than 4 minutes was flat out impossible, and therefore nobody did it. And Roger Bannister, I've actually studied quite a bit about him. He's an amazing guy, but he didn't really believe it was impossible. He knew it would be very hard, and it would be a very tight margin if he was able to do it. But he was actually running a longer. I'm not a track and field enthusiast, so I don't know all the specifics. But he was running a longer race than a mile, and he did the math and figured out that he had actually during that longer race ran a mile in less than 4 minutes, and that gave him a glimpse of hope that it was certainly possible to do it. So anyway, on May 6, 1954, he ran it in 3 minutes and 59 seconds, and there were several hundredths of a second after that. So he barely, by less than a second, beat the 4-minute mile. But regardless, he did it, which was a remarkable piece of history. But what I find more fascinating is what happened 46 days later. Just 46 days later, the record was beaten by John Landy. John Landy, the name you don't have to remember, but what I think is really interesting is that for hundreds of years, the record went, or everyone thought it was impossible to run it in less than 4 minutes, and just in 46 days later, it was beaten by John Landy, and then many, many, many others in the years that followed continued to smash the 4-minute mile. And it didn't take 100 years to have it happen again. It didn't even take a couple months. It took 46 days, and it was beaten, and then it got continually beaten. Now the record is 3 minutes and 43 seconds, and it's very rare that anyone who's competing at any level, that's of maturity, run it in more than 4 minutes. So if you're like me and you like to think about this kind of stuff, you ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that something that was previously impossible was beaten, or considered impossible was beaten, and then it continued to be beaten? Well, I have a little theory on this, and I believe that when Bannister beat it, he unlocked potential that was already there. Obviously, the potential, he didn't grow a different set of legs or anything like that, but the potential was always there. But after it happened, everyone said, oh, well, I guess it is possible, and that mental barrier of what was possible was changed, and the potential was unlocked. Now, I don't have a slide for this because I want you to write it down. I want everyone to get a blank sheet of paper in front of you, and I want you to draw 4 squares on it. And again, this is one of those things at the beginning of the call. I told you if you hang out till the end of the call, I will send this chart to you. But I want you to draw 4 squares on it. One square, so it kind of looks like the 4 squares make up a larger square. So 1 square on the upper left, 1 square on the upper right, 1 square on the bottom right, and 1 square on the bottom left. Okay, so you should have 4 squares, one on top of the other and side by side. And in the upper right square, I want you to write the word potential. Okay? On the upper left, write the word potential. On the upper right, write the word action, A-C-T-I-O-N. On the bottom right, I want you to write the word result, or results. And on the bottom left, I want you to write the word belief. And again, if you're unable to do this, I will send this to you. But just listen, and I think you'll be able to make sense of it by just listening. And again, I promise this will be well worth the exercise and the time that we take to do this. So if you look at this, you've got potential, action, results, and belief. potential is one of those things that, and I don't want to sound woo-woo or out there or any of that kind of stuff here, but I believe that all of us as human beings have more potential than we even have any idea of. Likewise, I believe that your self-storage facility or facilities have more potential for income than you even can imagine right now. And that's the point of these three pillars. So the potential is there, right? Just like the potential to run the 4-minute mile was there, the potential is there for you to drastically change and make over your self-storage facility. But it doesn't, it's just kind of there and it's stagnant. I want you to draw an arrow, so the arrow will be pointing right to the box that says action in it. Okay? Now, and then another arrow that points down from action to the results box, and then an arrow that points from the results box to the belief box, and then an arrow that points up from the belief box to the potential box. Okay, so you should have 4 arrows, and you can see that this is a cycle. It kind of goes around and around. So if you believe that you have more potential, which I think everyone on this call does, by the sheer fact that you're on this webinar, you believe that there's more potential that you should be aware of, or else you probably wouldn't be here. The very next step is to take action. Take action on something that you've learned on this webinar. Take action on something that you've learned from another seminar. I don't really care where it is, but take action. And when you take action, something really amazing happens. You always, always get a result. Okay, now sometimes the results are good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're fantastic, and sometimes they're mediocre, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you have moved and you have gotten a result of some sort. So that's why that flows down to results. Now from that result, you will form a belief. The question that a lot of us have, and the reason why a lot of us don't take action on the things we learn in this great industry, I'm sure that everyone on this call has been to a trade show or sat in on a webinar like this and heard something really great and never taken action on it, therefore never received the result. And I believe the reason being is you have a lack of belief or a lack of solid belief that you will get the results that you want. Okay? But you have to do this. So you get results, and then a belief is formed. Now, if you get negative results, then if you assumed it wouldn't work, then your belief is firmed up to, hey, you know what, that stuff doesn't work, and you can then move on to do something else. But at least you know. But if you get positive results, which happens more often than not, if you're taking the right actions, which is why you're here on this webinar to learn the right actions, then your belief will be firmed up that, hey, if I take this action, then I will get this result, and then it further enhances your potential because you can continue to take more and more and more action. It generates more and more of the desired result. And it becomes second nature. It's kind of like eating. When we get a pit in our stomachs and we feel that hunger pain, we don't really question how it is to get rid of that, because we've known since we were little babies that by taking a certain action, which is eating, we get the certain result, which is a feeling of relief and fullness, and then that belief is cemented into our mind. So there are a lot of things that that this works for, but in specific for today's webinar, you have more potential in your facility than you even know possible. And if you exploit these 3 pillars, or if you use these 3 pillars I'm going to talk about, and even if you just take action on one of them that you kind of believe will work, and you see the result that comes from it, then that belief will be firmed up, and then you can move on to the other. But I want you to constantly, and not, it just doesn't have to do with self-storage. It can apply to any area of your life, by the way, whether it be weight loss or bettering your relationships or whatever. So regardless, the potential was unlocked. Now I want to do a comparison of what I call operator A versus operator B. We have the privilege of talking to hundreds of operators on a regular basis here at Storage Marketing Solutions, and I believe this slide here is a fair representation of what we hear from the average operator who has no idea what these 3 pillars are. If you can see that, you'll see that they are generating 4 new tenants a month from their Yellow Page ad. They're getting 9 from drive-by traffic, 2 from referrals, 2 from past or repeat customers, which adds up to a total of 17 new tenants for that month. Now, yours may be a little bit different. I'm not saying this exactly represents you, but this is a fair representation of what I would call the average facility. The two numbers below that I want you to pay very close attention to. There's one that's called average tenant value, which is $784.16. And then the one to the right of that says average CPA, which stands for cost per acquisition, which simply means how much does it cost you to acquire a tenant, is about $189.94. Okay. Now this is somebody who is, what I feel represents the most common facility out there. Then I want to show you the comparison of operator B, who is utilizing these three pillars. Now this is a representation of, I don't want this to sound self-promoting at all, because it's not, but this comes from our client base, because we utilize these three pillars for our clients, but you can certainly do this on your own if you want. But notice the difference in all of this. So Yellow Pages went from 4 per month to 6 per month. Drive-by went from 9 to 10. Referral went from 2 to 7. Past and repeat customers went from 2 to 6. Strategic alliances, an entire new category, went to 7. Internet marketing, also an entire new category, went to 11. Database marketing went to 4. Miscellaneous direct marketing went to 8, which adds up to a total of 59 new tenants. Now again, I totally expect you to believe that this is unattainable, or these numbers are artificial, or whatever you want, and that's why I took you through that exercise before. This is absolutely possible. I want you to, and then, now that's just new tenants. I want you to look at the numbers below, because there is just as much power there. The average tenant value went from $784.16 to $902.45, which is an increase of about $118. The average cost per acquisition went down from $189.94 to $142.03. So if you combine these three things, you combine the increase in new tenants, you add the extra $118 to the average tenant value, and you lower your cost per acquisition by about $40, there is an exponential compounding effect, which, since most of you are probably financing people and developers who understand that a lot better than I do, you certainly understand the effect of compounding results. But I do want to point out that just the average, ignore everything else. Ignore that your increased tenant count went from 17 to 59, and ignore that your cost per acquisition went down by $40. Those are obviously great benefits and should be given a lot of credit. But just in the $118 increase alone, if you're able to increase the value of your tenants from $784.16 to $902, that is about a $35,000 on a 300-unit facility. That is on 300 tenants. So if you're 100% occupied at 300 units, or if you just have 300 tenants, and you're able to get a $118 increase on each of those, that just increased the valuation of your property by $350,000 approximately at today's current cap rates. Now, if they go back to where they were a couple years ago, it will be even more than that. But with a multiple of 10, which is about what I'm hearing these days, that just increased the value of your asset by $350,000 by just focusing on increasing tenant value. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Now I want to move on to exactly what these mysterious three pillars are and make them non-mysterious anymore. So you see this chart, and this chart is something that I will send you at the end of the webinar. But you'll see that the three pillars are increasing occupancy, increasing tenant value, and improving marketing efficiency. And each one of those three pillars has strategies and systems underneath them, but those are the three main pillars. Again, increasing occupancy, increasing tenant value, and improving marketing efficiency. And that's why, this is why earlier on I said that this is not something that's just going to work in 2010 and for the rest of this year. This is going to be something that works for you. If you follow those three pillars, they'll continue to work for you year after year after year after year, because they're very fundamental in nature. So now what I want to do is I want to dive into each one of the pillars. The most common pillar that people talk about when it comes time to discuss marketing in the storage industry is, how do I get my occupancy up? And that's where most people begin and stop when the subject of marketing comes up in this industry. So we'll start there. Increasing occupancy is broken into two separate categories. One is essential strategies, and the other is non-essential strategies. Now, it's my very firm belief that there are very, very few people in this self-storage industry that are doing the essential strategies to their full potential, or getting the maximum amount of results out of just these essential strategies. Believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there who are still not on the internet and doing internet marketing. There are a lot of people out there who are doing Yellow Page ads, but their Yellow Page ads are not differentiating and they don't follow good marketing strategy. There are a lot of people out there with referral programs, but they're not proactively promoting the referral program and using strategic materials. There are a lot of people out there who have good locations, but they have poor signage on the property. So we like to start right here with these essential strategies, and that's why they're called essential. Now, I do want to put a little disclaimer here that says just because Yellow Pages and Internet are here does not mean that they will necessarily be economical for you to do. In some markets, Yellow Pages do not work, are not as economical as they used to be, and there's better uses for the money. But for as much flack as the Yellow Pages get these days in the industry, there are still plenty of markets that we see where Yellow Pages are still the #1 performer. So my point being is you need to track all of this and see if it's working for you or not. But the reason why we call these essential is there are people right now, this very second, looking for a storage unit. There are probably hundreds or thousands of people right now looking for a storage unit. And when people look for a product or service and they have not had a positive experience with somebody or any experience with somebody, they're either going to do one of these 4 things most commonly. They're going to open up the Yellow Pages, go to the storage section, and start calling around. So it's crucial that you are there if it's proven effective and that you have a differentiating ad that tells them why they should choose you instead of your competitors. If they're not Yellow Page people, they'll go to the Internet, which is obviously becoming more and more common. Hop on Google or Yahoo or Bing and do a search for a storage unit. They will ask a friend if they have a friend or a neighbor that they know uses storage, or they're just asking around, hey, do you know of anyone who needs storage? They're going to ask a friend, which is equivalent to a referral program. Or they're just going to go to the place that they drive by frequently on their way to work or their favorite restaurant or whatever. They know it's there, and they're not even going to shop around. They're just going to go there because they drive past it every day. So the very first thing I want you to do is focus on really mastering these 4 essential strategies. Okay, and again, be sure to test and make sure that Internet and Yellow Pages are actually giving you a good return on your investment. But I have yet to see a case where a good referral program and good drive-by signage doesn't pay off. So those are pretty much a constant. Still under increasing occupancy, we have the non-essential strategies. Non-essential strategies are strategies aimed at people that likely need storage but aren't actively looking yet. So this may be somebody who has a messy garage and can't park their car in the garage, or they may have a messy office space, or they may have their home for sale. They have the pain that storage will solve, but they have not yet started looking around for it. Okay, so this includes things like direct mail, apartment alliances, strategic alliances, pre-mover marketing, new mover marketing, tenant database marketing, et cetera, et cetera. We at Storage Marketing Solutions have over 40 different strategies that fit under this category because there's so many different ways to go about doing this. But the bottom line is you don't even want to think about this until you've mastered the essential strategies. If you master the essential strategies and you still don't have the occupancy you want, then you can start getting aggressive with some of these non-essential strategies. Okay? So that covers the first pillar. And again, we will be sending this to you so you don't have to worry about remembering all this. The second pillar is increasing tenant value. Again, I feel like this is one area of the self-storage industry that is so under-leveraged it's almost sickening. Since most people just talk about how do I increase my occupancy and maintain my occupancy. If you remember the operator A versus operator B charts I showed you earlier on, there's actually 3 things you should focus on, and this is one of those. In that particular case, we increased the lifetime customer value by $118. And here's how we did that. The first category under increasing tenant value is called rent rate ascension. Now, a lot of you are familiar with rent rate management and so forth, and a lot of good management softwares these days actually have rent rate management wizards or tools that allow you to raise the rents on existing tenants on a certain schedule, and it allows you to raise your street rate on a certain schedule as well. So when a certain unit mix gets to a certain size, it will automatically adjust the price up. If your management software has that and you're not using it, you need to start using that today. I can't tell you how many operators I'm talking to today that proper revenue management and rent rate ascension is saving their bacon in today's economic times, because they're not getting the occupancy or the new tenants they used to, but they're consistently increasing the value of every tenant, which is dropping straight to the bottom line. So rate increase, you need to have a good rate increase schedule and a good rate increase strategy. And there has been mountains and mountains of research done on this in the hotel, airline, and storage industry. Talk to your software company and ask them if they have something like that built in, and if they have any strategies that they recommend. If not, just go onto Google and type in revenue management or economic occupancy, and you'll see all sorts of studies that give you, there's different levels of risk. You can be more aggressive with raising your rents, but you're also going to have more fallout. You can be less aggressive. You'll still notice an increase in your income, but you'll have less fallout. So I'm not going to advise you on how to do that specifically, but I will advise you to go and become very familiar with it and determine a schedule and strategy. The second thing, which is not talked about hardly at all in the self-storage industry, is what's called tiered pricing levels. And here's what that means. Right now, when somebody calls, let's say you determine that the appropriate size for them is a 10 by 10. And typically your manager, hopefully they're doing a good sales job and selling the property and so forth. But when it comes time to offering them a price, they say, okay, Mr. Smith, our 10 by 10 is $99 a month. And that $99 a month is what it is. I highly recommend that you come up with a good, better, and best 10 by 10, and a good, better, and best 5 by 5, and a good, better, and best for all your unit sizes and mixes. And here's why, and here's what I mean by that. Let's say that let's go back to that original phone call where we were discussing a 10 by 10 storage unit. Instead of saying, Mr. Smith, our 10 by 10 is $99, we're going to say, Mr. Smith, we have 3 different levels of a unit that will give you 10 by 10 in space. We have a platinum level 10 by 10, and with that you get premium location on the property, so you'll be the closest to the elevator or closest to the gate. You also get free access to our refreshment center anytime you're on the property, which includes soft drinks and snacks. You get free access to our Wi-Fi and internet access. We will send and receive faxes for you. We'll also send and receive any packages that you want through UPS or FedEx, and we'll give you VIP pricing on any packing supplies you need. We have a full suite of packing supplies. That's $129 a month for the Platinum 10 by 10, Mr. Smith. The second level down is our Gold 10 by 10, and it includes everything we just talked about except for premium location and except for access to the refreshment center. And that one goes for $119 a month. And then we have our Silver 10 by 10, which goes for $99 a month, and we'll give you the best location that we can. And certainly if you need us to send or receive a fax from time to time, we'll be glad to do that for you. But that's $99 a month. Now, if you think about that for a minute, I want to tell you where all the value is in this. The first area of value is you're going to have some people who take advantage of the $129 10 by 10 that you otherwise would have just asked $99 for. Okay, now it's not going to cost you a lot. You probably already have wireless internet, and you probably already have a refrigerator on your property. Go to Costco once a month and buy $100 worth of soda and drinks and snacks, and keep that thing stocked. So all of this stuff is not really costing you anything extra, but all you're doing is you're upgrading them. And some people will buy the most expensive because in our minds, for a lot of people, more expensive equals better. And if the $30 price difference doesn't make a difference to them, then they're going to go ahead and sign up for it. So you get that extra $30 a month right out of the gate for those people. The second area where this helps you is it helps you increase your conversion rate, because you have now created contrast, which is a principle of persuasion that's very important in creating contrast. So before, if you just offered them $99 and they have nothing to compare that to other than, guess who, your competitors, you're going to lower your conversion rate. But if you tell them $129 or $99, a lot of people who are really concerned about price and don't care about all the extras, they now have something to compare it to and will choose it just based on that. Okay, so create tiered pricing levels. Now this does require training and it does require a little forethought, but again, if you can get an extra 20 or 30 bucks a month out of a good chunk of your tenants, that makes a big difference in terms of your net operating income and valuation of your property. The second area is what we call tenant upsell strategies, and this is simply selling other products or services you currently offer at your store. This could be packing supplies, insurance. A lot of operators are selling propane now. If you're doing pack and ship, you can upsell pack and ship. Whatever it is, if you currently offer it and you can process the transaction, it's simply putting together a system where you are selling that. A lot of people only try and, if they're even doing this, a lot of operators will only try and sell this at the point of sale. They don't continually promote it through their email marketing and through their other marketing efforts, which is a shame. The third area is tenant cross-sell strategies. Cross-selling is selling other products or services that you do not offer. Good examples are carpet cleaning, painting, moving services, windows, realtors, mortgage companies, home appraisers. You'll notice a lot of these have to do with services that surround somebody buying or selling a home, which is no coincidence because, as you know, a good portion of the people who use storage are in the process of buying or selling a home. So they're going to need these products or services anyway. And just like you should be willing to pay a referral commission to anybody in your local area for them giving you a tenant, these people are willing to pay you a commission for giving them a customer. So you create a customer VIP program and you form alliances with these other related companies. And it can really be any company and say, hey, I think a lot of my customers are going to need their carpets cleaned and they're going to need a realtor or they're going to need a mover. I'd like to recommend you. I heard you're great. What kind of commission structure do you have for this? And a lot of times they'll just give you the same commission that they pay their salespeople. And it can range anywhere from $25 to $500. We have some clients who are getting $500, a $500 referral fee from movers because interstate moves are so expensive, they're willing to pay that to get the new customer. So you hand them a VIP flyer when they move in and say, hey, if you need any of these things, because you're a tenant of XYZ Storage, you get a special deal. And through tracking numbers and tracking codes, you can track that and measure how many people are actually calling that. But even if you only get a few of your customers who are taking advantage of this and you're getting $25 or $50 or even $500 commissions from these people, it really adds up and increases the lifetime value of your customers. In addition to that, they appreciate the alliance, and they're going to be sending people your way. You'll notice that a lot of these people, carpet cleaning, a lot of people, if they're getting a new carpet or getting a remodel done, they're going to need storage, so you're going to get the recommendation. Same with remodeling, same with moving and realtors. We know that. So setting up a good cross-sell system is very important. Again, takes a little bit of work, but when you consider the amount of money that will add to the value of your asset, it's really a no-brainer in my opinion. And then the last under increasing tenant value is past tenant reactivation. You already see this happening. When we look at our clients' activity reports, we already see a lot of past and repeat business coming in. But nobody's doing anything, or hardly anybody's doing anything to promote that. We recommend that you be in contact via email, phone, and regular mail with your past customers. And there's technology that allows you to do this very inexpensively and in an automated fashion, so you don't have to spend all your time doing it, at least twice a year, so every 6 months, letting them know that you appreciated their business, you hope things are going well for them, and invite them to come back in and give them a special price for doing it. I just heard a stat today, as a matter of fact, that 68% of our customers leave us because they feel like we're indifferent to them and we don't care about their business. Doing this and constantly inviting them out and reaching out a hand to invite them back in, obviously it's not going to get everybody back in. If they don't need storage, they don't need storage. Or if they've moved out of state and you don't have a facility in their new location, you're not going to get that person back, so you need to filter the list. But regardless, by proactively going after these past tenants, you're going to get a lot more of them to come back, and that's why that repeat number went up on the operator A versus operator B strategy. Okay, so that covers increasing tenant value. And now we talk about pillar number 3, which is improving marketing efficiency. And this is a big one. Now I'm going to throw around a couple terms here. One is called CPA. If you don't know what that means cost per acquisition. And all that is how much does it cost you to acquire a new tenant. For example, if you spend $1,000 on a marketing campaign and you get 10 new tenants from it, your cost per acquisition for that campaign is $100. All you do is take the cost for the strategy divided by the number of new customers you get, and that gives you the cost per acquisition. Then you compare that to your average lifetime customer value, and you can establish a return on your investment. So if your average lifetime customer value is $700 and it costs you $100 to get, you have a 7-to-1 ROI on that money, which is pretty hard to beat, almost impossible to beat anywhere else. Okay, so pay attention to those numbers. But improving marketing efficiency is broken into 4 separate categories. The first is advanced tracking systems. In today's day and age with technology, you have absolutely no excuse not to be tracking everything. Okay, your money is too tight in the recession. It's too important. You work too hard for it to be throwing it away on stuff that doesn't work. Tracking numbers are very inexpensive. They're available all over the place. We have them. Companies like U.S. Storage Search have them, and they make it very easy for you to track exactly how well your marketing is working. If there's no phone response, use tracking codes. A lot of people put a fake name on, call this phone number and ask for Cindy. Cindy doesn't really work there, but you know that you only put that name on your direct mail campaign or on something else that was out there. There's no excuse not to track. And then from there, you can establish a cost per call and cost per acquisition for each strategy, and then compare that to your lifetime customer value to make sure that everything you're doing is getting you a good return on your investment, and that way you can be a lot smarter about where you place your dollars. If you're paying $25 a month for something and you get 1 tenant a year from it, sure, it may be disappointing you only got 1 tenant, but your cost per acquisition could be low enough compared to your lifetime value that there's no reason to turn it off. You just have to do other things. Hopefully that makes sense, but you need to have advanced tracking systems and be paying attention to this. It's very, very crucial. The second thing is lead conversion strategies. This is absolutely huge. There's a reason why there's mystery shopping companies in this industry, and that is because most operators realize that their staff could do better in converting inquiries into actual sales. Focus on increasing conversion all the time. I think that it's very well worth it for you to spend $5,000 to send your manager to an expensive, very nice, sophisticated sales training program. You may think $5,000 for sales training, that's ridiculous. Why don't I buy them a $20 book at Barnes & Noble? Well, you can do both, but I can assure you that $5,000 can easily be recouped in a month or less if that person knows it can increase their conversion rate from 35% to 50% to even 60 or 75% by becoming a better, more persuasive salesperson. But this is not something that you just do once. You have to be consistent about it, and you have to hold your people accountable. And again, these advanced tracking systems I talk about allow you to pay attention to these metrics and always be measuring and improving your conversion rate. And small increases mean huge bottom line improvement. You're paying for that phone call anyway. If you can get one extra phone call to convert into a rental a month, it adds up to big dividends for you. The third is advanced cost per acquisition and ROI analysis. I believe that which you focus on expands and improves. The more you pay attention to these numbers and the more you're improving your processes throughout your entire business, the better off your bottom line is going to be. And make accurate reporting mandatory. A lot of people say, well, my manager fills out the source report in the software and they send me a report. And then we go back and you analyze it and you audit it and you find out that they're just selecting Yellow Pages or drive-by because they haven't asked and they're not using tracking numbers. They just select that because they assume that that's the most common thing. Auditing is a very big deal in this industry. You should audit your reporting as much as you audit your financials and the rest of your book, and make sure that your marketing reporting is accurate, because it can make you a fortune or save you a fortune by figuring these kinds of things out. And then implementation, training, and optimization. This is not done nearly enough in this industry. You need to spend a lot of time and effort with your managers and your employees training them to improve on everything. Of course, I think of marketing, but there's so many processes that they do every day that can constantly be improved. You'll see the letter CANAI. For those of you who have heard me speak before, I always mention this. It stands for constant and never-ending improvement. I actually transposed the A and the I. It's supposed to be CANIA, but it's constant and never-ending improvement, or EI, I'm sorry. But what that is it's a Japanese principle. You may have heard of it called Kaizen, but regardless, constant, never-ending improvement is crucial on all of your processes. So so that covers the 3 pillars. Again, I'll send you that chart, and I hope you realize the power of improving all 3 of those areas. And hopefully those charts at the beginning of the webinar gave you a good idea as to the power of that. I want to talk about the B word, which is budgeting. No one really wants to talk about it, and there's no real firm answer for how to budget for marketing. However, I can assure you that it's not 1985 or 1975 or even 2001 anymore in this industry, okay? We're now in a new era of the self-storage industry. Competition is higher than ever before. The economy is tough. And the answer to these 2 challenges is more effective and more aggressive marketing. Now, with some help from industry vets, I've come up with a couple of numbers here. And again, these numbers are not hard and fast rules. They're just rules of thumb. And so you may need to spend a little bit more. You may need to spend less. But I basically break it down into 2 categories. For a stabilized facility trying to maintain your existing status, you should be spending between 35 cents and 50 cents per rentable square foot per year. So if you have a 100,000 rentable square foot facility, you should be spending between 35,000 and 50,000 per year in marketing. Now, if that sounds like a lot, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It actually could be a lot for your marketplace, but it is going to take more money than you are used to spending in order to stay ahead of your competition and continue to drive these numbers up. And I can assure you, there's going to be several people in your market who will step up and be spending this kind of money on marketing. And my advice is just to be really smart about where you put it. If you have a lease-up facility, you should be spending between 85 cents and $1 per rentable square foot per year, which really freaks a lot of people out, to be honest. If you take that same 100,000 rentable square foot facility, that facility should be spending between 85,000 and 100,000 per year on marketing until they get stabilized. Now, one thing I want to tell you is I talk to a lot of people who built a facility and expected it to fill up on its own, and they're bleeding $25,000 to $35,000 a month in debt service, and they've got a call on their loan coming up, and they have no idea how they're going to get there. It's a very scary situation, and they're losing sleep, when in reality is they just did not spend enough driving new customers to that facility. The days of build it and they will come are long gone in most markets. Now, I've given you a couple of rules of thumb, and I always hate doing that because some people think that they think this is the exact number it should be. If you have less money than that, that's okay. You can still generate good results. If you have more, you'll get to where you want to go faster. But always focus on cost per acquisition and return on investment. Don't spend this money just for sake of spending it. Spend it and make sure that you're getting a good return on your investment back before you continue on. Next thing I want to talk about before we end it and open it up for questions and answers is the subject of Internet marketing. As I said earlier, it's very surprising to me in today's day and age. Here we are doing a webinar on the Internet with people from all over the world. Surprising how many people are still not on the Internet and doing Internet marketing right. There's really 3 fundamental steps for doing Internet marketing right. First is get traffic by being present. The Internet is called an information superhighway for a reason. Every day there are thousands of people searching for local products and services in your local market. And not being present there is equivalent to you not having a sign out in front of your physical building. People are driving past, and if they're not seeing you, then you might as well not have a sign out in front of your building either and just let those cars drive by. So you need to get traffic by being present. Optimize organically and on pay-per-click systems to be present on the first page of search engines. For more detail on this, go to youtube.com and search Storage Marketing Solutions. I put together a 3-part video series. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just teaching you what pay-per-click is and what organic is and so forth. They'll be good for you to watch. Again, just go to YouTube and type Storage Marketing Solutions. The next thing you got to do is you got to convert traffic. All the traffic in the world is worthless unless you can convert it into a paying customer. In those YouTube videos that I just mentioned, I also show you the mistakes that people make when converting traffic. You have to drive that traffic to a highly persuasive, highly response-oriented page so that you can get them to pick up the phone and call you, send you an email, print out a coupon and walk in. And again, all of this with today's technology is so trackable that you'll know exactly how much your investment is giving you back in Internet marketing. But again, constantly be focusing on getting traffic and converting that traffic into a paying customer. and always be optimizing. One thing about the internet that makes it hard is that it's always changing. Nothing is static on the internet. Okay, Google is always changing their rules. Search engines are changing names. They're changing how their pay-per-click structure works. They're allowing certain things and not allowing certain things. Consumer behavior, for example, video has become so popular over the past year. Social media has become popular. So you always have to stay on top of it and always be optimizing. So my favorite thing to say is nothing is static on the internet, therefore you can't be either in order to be successful on it. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning of the call that we have 3 gifts for you, and there's actually going to be 4 because when I submitted this in, I didn't think that most of you would probably want to see the 4-square thing that I sent you at the very beginning. Let me see if I can get this to advance here. Well, let me see here. Sorry for the pause here. I'm just having trouble getting the slide to advance, and then it might advance 20 times. Okay, so here's the free gifts for you. Number 1 is the 3 pillars chart that you saw on your screen. We will send that to you in paper format. I recommend you staple it to your wall, and if you have a marketing department, I recommend that's something that they always be focused on and constantly be focusing on improving each one of the 3 pillars and each one of the subcategories. The second thing that I'll send you is what I'm calling the social media strategy map. Social media is something that's very hot. There's a lot of hype around it these days, but it's also something that can waste you a lot of time and a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. We've actually mastered a way for you to get really good results through social media. That's things like Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I've created what I call a strategy map, which is a roadmap for you to get the most out of social media. We'll send that to you, and also we will give you a free 30-minute marketing tune-up call where we review everything you're doing marketing-wise, let you know what we think can be improved, and how to go about doing that. And then, of course, the 4th thing is that the 4-square thing that I talked about at the beginning. I'll put something together so you can have that in front of you, which is the potential action results and belief diagram. And again, that's something I recommend you focus on for everybody. To get these, send an email with not only your email address but your physical address. These are all physical pieces of material. Again, they're printed on nice paper so you can hang them up or laminate them or whatever. Send an email with your name and your physical mailing address. It can be a P.O. box if that's what you have, to info@storagemarketingsolutions.com. Again, info@storagemarketingsolutions.com. We'll compile that list and we'll get those out to you all free of charge. Again, the whole point of this is to help you get better and make more money. So if we can get these in your hands and get you using these things and seeing results, it's better for everybody. And that is it, and we open it up to questions and answers, which will be moderated by Poppy again.
Great. Thank you very much, Derek. We have actually quite a few questions, so we'll try and get through them as quickly as we can. The first one is, with the Internet, how critical is a Yellow Pages ad right now? And if you still must have a Yellow Pages ad, can you get by with a smaller, less expensive placement?
That is a great question, and the answer is they are completely independent of each other. They're 2 different strategies. So you could have a huge Yellow Page presence, and you could have a huge Internet presence. Now, obviously, if budget is a concern, which it is for most people, I recommend that you not throw the baby out with the bathwater. If your Yellow Page ad is producing well for you, then start testing small with Internet marketing. Or vice versa. If your Internet marketing is already working really well for you and you know those numbers work and you want to try to see if a Yellow Page ad is going to work in your market again, then start small there. But remember, I have to be very stoic about this. Always focus on cost per acquisition and return on investment. As long as both of those mediums are giving you a good return on your investment, you should absolutely positively do both.
Okay, there are quite a few questions about the chart that you talked about in the beginning, and those types of things. And Derek, I'm just going to leave those for you to answer individually afterwards.
Okay.
Next question we'll tackle is, you said where people are looking for storage. What is that based on?
That's based on consumer behavior studies, which is whenever. Well, let me answer this back up a little bit. If if you're looking for anything, whether it be storage or a good taco salad, if you have previous experience with somebody who can provide you that and it's a positive experience, your most likely bet is to go back to that person as long as your experience was positive. Okay? Now, if you do not know of a good storage company in this particular case, and there are a lot of people out there who have never used storage, or they use storage in another state, but they're not familiar with any of the local brands, so when a consumer is not aware of where to find what it is they're looking for, then they either open up a Yellow Page directory, they do a search on the internet, they ask a friend, or they go to the place that they drive by that they just know is there from their physical activity. But it's basic consumer research information on how people react when they know where to find something or when they don't know where to find something.
Okay, next question. Where did you get the stat for 68% leave due to indifference?
That actually came from, most of you, I assume, are familiar with Brian Tracy. He's a big personal development and sales trainer. He just put out an audio presentation on why customers leave, and the number one reason customers leave, and this again is across all products and services. It's not self-storage specific, but he cited the number, and I believe he said it came from Stanford University, of 68% leave due to indifference, meaning they feel like nobody at the customer cares about them, and they don't really care about getting that product or service exclusively from that one person. So it's very important. A lot of people, one of the big problems in the self-storage industry is a lot of people are afraid to talk to their customers. They think they might remind them they have a storage unit, and so they'll pack up and move out. I can assure you that's completely bogus. It's very important to let your customers know you care about them and let them know you care about their business. Always be giving them extra value, and that will help drop that indifference number down, because they know you care about them, and that will make them start to care about you more as well.
Okay, next question is, what data do you use to calculate your average tenant value?
That's a very good question, and I meant to go into that, so thanks to whoever asked that. What you do is you take your average monthly rent, you multiply it by your average length of stay. So if your average monthly rent is $70 a month and your average length of stay is 10 months, then you have a $700 lifetime value just on rent, and then you take your average additional merchandise purchase, and so say your average merchandise purchase is $25, your lifetime customer value, average lifetime value would be $725. Some people recommend putting in the average customer referral, which I think is a great idea because it is reality. If your average customer refers one other person, then you have to put that value in there because there is absolutely real value to that person that they've referred. But in terms of industry standards, most operators are just doing the average monthly rent multiplied by the average length of stay and then adding in the average merchandise purchase again and calculating the number that way. But I do recommend trying to calculate the referral as well.
Okay, next question is, where are you getting the research on budget per year and the search on revenue or economic?
Okay, the first part of the question is the annual budget per year is a rule of thumb that we have established internally, as well as input from R.K. Klebenstein and several other articles that have been written by guys like Jim Chiswell and other industry vets that have been in the industry for a long time. And we have verified that internally by noticing, about where those numbers are. Number may be more, it may be less. Those are just average on a national basis. So don't think that you have to do those in order to be successful. So it's just a combination of a lot of research and a lot of trying to find the right mix. And then the second question was based on economic occupancy for rent rate ascension and so forth. Economic occupancy and rent rate management is actually there's extensive studies done on that. It's used in the airline industry, it's used in the hotel industry, it's used in a lot of different industries where limited space is available. So if you go to Google and you type in, like for example, type in what is economic occupancy or what is revenue management and how does it work. But before you'll get all sorts of results. But before you do that, I do recommend that you go to your management software company and ask them about it. I do know that that CenterShift, the software company, just published a white paper on it, which I thought was fascinating. I know they're giving that away for free. So if you email someone over at CenterShift and ask for their revenue management report, they did a very extensive study with thousands of facilities, and it will explain how it works and how it's impacted those thousands of facilities they studied.
All right, next question. How do you convince owners to spend the money to implement some of these techniques?
That's a very tough question, and I think the obvious answer is, well, if they own the property, these strategies and techniques are going to increase the value of their asset. It's as simple as that. And you don't have to start big. You don't have to do this all at once. Just take one strategy or an idea, and it goes back to the 4 squares at the beginning. If the manager does, or if the owner doesn't have the belief that by spending the money to take a certain action, they're going to get the result, then you have to. I mean, that belief has to be built. Action has to be taken, and then the results will come in. And obviously if the results are positive, they're going to be a lot more willing to spend more money on all these other crazy marketing ideas, as a lot of owners think they are. But obviously when they see the results coming in and they look at it in dollars and cents in their bank account and on their revenue reports, and if they understand how their properties are valued, or how a valuation is drawn on their asset, then I think they should be very excited to spend money on anything that will add to that net operating income. But that is a tough challenge.
Next question, Derek. How do you calculate a CPA for in-person direct contact marketing?
It's a little bit tougher. You base it on the hourly wage of the person doing the in-person contacting and the cost for whatever collateral they're using. So if the person, just to make the number, I'm horrible at math, by the way, so I'd like to make my numbers round. Let's say that a person is making $10 an hour, and they're handing out brochures that cost 25 cents a piece. If it takes them 10 hours worth of work, and let's say 10 brochures to hand out, you take that 10 hours multiplied by the hourly rate, which is $10 an hour, so that's $100, and then add in the $25 for the collateral that they handed out to get that, so that'd give you a cost per acquisition of $125. Obviously, you can factor in gas and vehicle usage if you want. It just makes it more complicated, but at least you'll have a ballpark by doing it that way.
Derek, I've had a couple of people ask if you could please repeat the email address again so that they can send you a request for the free information.
Sure. It's info, I-N-F-O, like information shortened. So I-N-F-O at storagemarketingsolutions.com, which is our website as well, storagemarketingsolutions.com, but just info at storagemarketingsolutions.com. Just send your name and your physical address, and we'll put you on the list and get those out to you.
Okay, next question. For lease-up facility, what % of the marketing budget should be on essential versus non-essential strategies?
Well, I would say 100% of it should go to essential if they can reasonably spend 100%. It's kind of a tough question to answer without seeing the numbers, but yellow page ads cost different amounts in different markets. Pay-per-click advertising costs different amounts in different markets, and how much that actual budget is. If they can responsibly spend 100% of their budget on those essential strategies, then that's where it should be spent. If they conquer or master the essential strategies and still have budget left over, only then should it be moved to the non-essential strategies.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and Derek, you have a lot more to answer offline. We've also had a couple of requests for people asking if you could send the answers to all of the questions to everybody, so I'll leave that to you. Last question is regarding increasing tenant value. What are your ideas on raising the rates on current customers in addition to raising the street rates?
I think that's a great last question to end on. I thought you were going to end on the question on whether or not I was really as handsome as I looked in the picture. But that is a great question. It especially weighs on everyone's mind in today's economy, where they think that everyone, where frankly money is tight. A lot of operators are not raising rents. I can tell you that in our client base, we have a lot of clients who are sticking to their rent rate schedule, and they are seeing fantastic results. So I recommend that you do both. You raise your, if you get to 92, 95% occupancy or higher on a certain unit size, you need to raise your street rate on that. And you also need to, depending on how long the existing tenants in that unit size have been in there, you'll also need to raise their monthly rent. Also, regardless of the specific unit size, if you have a tenant that's been with you for a long time and they've been paying the same rent for 2 or 3 or 4 years, they're due for a rent rate increase. And if you do the math, you can sometimes the rent rate increase is as small as $5 a month extra, and that $5 across 200 or 300 tenants really makes a big difference. And quite frankly, if somebody's moving out over $5 a month, they're probably going to move out anyway. But I do recommend having a lead save strategy or a customer save strategy in place. If somebody calls after doing the rent raise and they say, you know what, this is ridiculous, I've been a loyal customer forever, and I'm going to move out just on the principle of the matter that you dare raise my rent, you totally have the option to say, you know what, you're right, Mr. Smith, we didn't consider that. We will drop your rate back down to what it was previously, and you can save that customer if you're worried about it. But for $5 a month, most people spend that every morning at Starbucks on a cup of coffee and a bagel. So very few people will move out over that. But it's significant to your net operating income.
All right. Thank you very much, Derek, for another informative webinar. We'd like to thank everyone for attending today and hope that we've provided some useful information to assist you in your self-storage development and marketing endeavors. You will receive an email shortly with a link to the archived presentation, so please be sure to watch your inbox for this email. And we'd also like to invite you to join us for our next webinar scheduled for September 16th. Sponsored by the Parham Group, this webinar will cover mistakes that people make in the business of self-storage. And that's going to be a great webinar as well. To register, please visit our website at ministoragemessenger.com. Thank you again for attending, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Derek.